what year was this that happened in 20, like the early
Early
2010?
early 2000s.
Okay, early 2000s. You see, one thing that I noticed around your artwork that you started posting online, there is a significant like amount of growth that happened to you from around the early tens to I mean currently, I mean, and the amount of growth is exponential. Now,
Yeah.
I read that you did actually end up finally taking some art classes, and that was a very enriching experience for you.
So what happened before that? I'm manic depressive, and I end up owning 2 salons after I quit Rusk after the first 10 years. And I own 2 salons. And one night, my son is one of the biggest influences in my life.
Oh, that's nice.
And the reason being is because I got to watch this young man. I started raising him when he was 4. I'm actually a stepdad.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I took over when he was 4, and we had a lot of fun. I introduced to him to a lot of things at an early age, just like I was, Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering, all that kind of good stuff. And I was a Boy Scout leader for 10 years. Crazy enough. And I was also a lunch dad, for crying out loud.
You were a what?
A lunch dad.
A lunch dad? What's a lunch dad?
So you would go when in elementary school, I would go at the lunch hour, and I would sit with the kids and make sure they ate, and I'd line them up and take them back to their little classrooms. And
Oh, that's nice.
and I did that for a while. But anyway, long story short, we were sitting around one night with a couple of hair clients of mine and playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I had a manic moment, and I said, we're going to start a game store. And my kids and my wife were like, what? And I was like, no, it's going to be awesome. We're going to create a community. It's going to be more heavy on community than it is on product. And those came up with a whole business plan by the end of the D&D game that night. And I looked at the guy across from me. I go, and you're going to manage it. 3 weeks later, I had a game store.
How really? Okay.
And with a $25,000 loan, and I opened a game store and hired that guy as a manager. And when he wasn't working, I was running the salon, working in the salon, and I was doing the game store. When I was in the game store, I had my drawing table. So on the downtime, I would sit there and just like sketch out and whatever like that. And all of those things that were on the shelves, the Dungeons and Dragons, the Pathfinder, the Magic, the Pokemon, all of that stuff, and hearing the people and seeing the excitement and seeing the camaraderie brought back all of that stuff from 10-year-old Phil.
Right. That
and I was like, I'm getting back into art. And so I had a drawing table set up at the game store, and I would come in early and I would sketch and doodle or whatever, or make terrain or paint miniatures or something like that. And 2 years later, I ended up selling it because running a salon and a game store and trying to create both communities and functioning in both of them, it's going to kill you.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you're being a parent and running 2 businesses.
Yeah,
like you're burnt out. There's no way.
So I was at the time like downing, and here we go back to the addiction. I was downing like almost a quarter bottle of NyQuil, and just to instantly pass out, so I could wake up the next morning at 6 a.m., get my kid to school, so I could get to the salon, so then I could go back to the game store, so that I could go back home, hang out with my kid, down another quarter bottle of NyQuil.
You could have died because the acetaminophen in that you could give yourself liver poisoning. Oof.
Oh, I put worse in my body, but
Oh,
yeah,
I mean, like,
it did not help my cause.
oof.
Anyway, so so I did this thing after I sold the game store. I told my son, I said, he was huge into League of Legends. This is where it all starts. I'm sorry it took so long
No, what are you talking about?
to get here.
This
This
is
is where
it's a buildup.
it all starts. I was manic one day watching my son play League of Legends. Now I suck at video games. I'm horrible.
Even the old school ones.
Oh, I'm horrible.
Oh,
Horrible. Dude, I used to have Baldur's Gate for my Commodore 64 when I was a kid. I was horrible. Even Pool of Radiance, I had that. And all I did was Pool of Radiance on my Commodore 64 was make characters, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Could I play it? No. So anyway, I told my son, I said, I'm going to teach myself how to digitally draw. And I'm going to teach myself in 6 months. And in 6 months, I'm going to make League of Legends quality shit. And he was like, oh, okay, whatever, Daddy. So I bought this piece of shit Wacom tablet plastic box thing that you would draw on, right? And I had this Frankenstein of a computer that my son built from his extra parts. And I sat there, and every day after work, because I didn't have the game store anymore, I sold it. Every day after work at the salon, 2-3 hours, I would teach myself how to like digitally draw. And I would watch YouTube videos and whatever. 6 months go by, and I'm like, that's okay. I'm going to start sending this shit out. Now it's more accessible. Now I have the internet. So I start looking up, I think it was like 10 or 12 game companies. So I send out these samples. I think it was like 5 or 6 drawings that I did. And I didn't know, still to that day, I did not know how to effectively write like I don't know what you would call it, like a resume.
But yeah, that would CV
So
resume.
all I put was my 5-year goal was to get something published so my kid thinks I'm cool. So the next day, nworld.org writes me back and offers me a job. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Now I'm actually drawing articles for 5e through nworld. After I did my research on it, nworld is huge.
Yeah.
And that was 11 years ago.
And was that one of the best days?
I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a joke.
When you realized it wasn't, though.
So I ended up doing 2 articles a month for $40 each for these little quarter-page color illustrations for, and they're shit. They're shit. I cannot believe they paid me for this shit. And so I did that for 7 years. 7 years I worked for nworld, 2 to 3 times a month, doing these little pictures for these monthly articles that they had on their website. And one day in the salon, my hands turned black and split open like you over microwaved hot dogs.
What?
And I mean, I can get really gross with this. I'm going to try not to. And I didn't know what it was. And I was looking for remedies. I couldn't cut hair anymore.
What was it, necrosis?
Pretty much. What had happened was, at the end of the day, I got diagnosed with lupus.
Holy shit.
Well, the problem with lupus with guys, because it's predominantly a female disease, it does really weird shit to dudes. And because the chemicals I was around was turning my fingers from the knuckles to the top jet black and splitting open.
Oh,
So I was having to hire people in the salon to do my color work because I couldn't touch chemicals.
right. Yeah.
I'm cutting hair with these like gloves you would wash your dishes in
Right. Right.
because there's pus coming. Dude, I had MRSA 3 times.
Oh man. Yeah, that's
And this was the around the years of Obamacare. So I had my Obama doctor, right? Love this woman. And one morning, my fingers all the way to my elbow was jet black. Like I had just stuck it in a fire when I woke up. 6 o'clock in the morning, I come out like this to my wife. What's wrong with me? And she goes, you need to go to the fucking ER.
yeah.
I'm like, hold on, I gotta take Blaine to school.
Mm-mm.
So I took my son to school as I'm driving like this, and there's pus all over the steering
Why
wheel.
would you do that?
He had to go to school.
But he could have. He could.
No, he had to go to school.
But
And
you could. Oh man.
so I get home after dropping him off at school, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to my doctor. So I get to my doctor, and she looked, and God bless this woman. Oh, I don't know where she's at today, but God bless her. She is a wonderful human being. And every time I walked in there, she thought I was dying.
Oh.
And she goes, oh my God. She goes, look at your arms. I said, yeah, I know. She goes, you got MRSA. I was like, I don't know what MRSA is. She goes, pull your pants down and bend over. Okay. So I get a shot in my ass. And she goes, if you would have waited 24 more hours, you'd been dead. But she used to tell me that all the time. If I waited 24 hours, you'd be dead.
How many times? Wow. I mean, I tell you what. Like, yeah, because that's the thing. It's autoimmune. So like, it can be a horror host of things that happen. Like to you.
Dude, look, I'm all fucked up. So, long story short, I'm like, I started hiring other people to do my colors because I was like, okay, it's the chemicals. Okay, I can't cut hair. I'm gonna train this person to fucking like cut the way I do because I cut a certain way. And I was booked 7 days a week, dude. Like 10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm cutting hair. And I had to start farming it out. So finally, one day I couldn't take it anymore. And I came home one night from the salon, and my wife and my kid were on the front porch. I love smoking on the front porch at the end of the night because you see the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't fucking do this shit no more. Look at me. I look like I got 10 overcooked hot dogs on my hands.
Mm.
And my wife looked at me and she goes, just do art. Like, what do you mean just do art? Dude, I get paid $80 a month, if that, from Enroll. I don't know what to do. So my kid was like, we gotta cut.
Oh, okay.
So out of all the interviews I've done, Never got this deep. So I'm sitting on the front porch with my wife and my son. And they're like, do art. And I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? I'm getting $80 a month, but I can't do hair anymore because lupus for a guy is all kind of it's the dumbest disease known to man for a guy. I mean, which is why I got this dumb haircut. And my hands still break out, you know, when I'm working with certain markers or whatever. But anyway,
It's rough. Like, okay. It is rough.
Oh, rough. It's horrible, especially internally. It's all messed up. So long story short, I was like, all right, cool, let's do art. And the next day, I enrolled in community college for drawing classes. And I'm like, I want to make this happen. And I have enough money in the bank to get me through 7 months. That's it. My kid's going to Michigan State. I still got bills. And I got to make this happen real quick. So I started just pumping out some stuff. And I started like just find like with the internet, especially Facebook, you can find anybody, the brother who's doing a Kickstarter, you know, and message, here's my shit. Look at my shit. Look at, you know.
But you had a good idea. You had a good idea. That's the thing. Not everybody has a good idea. I think that's what makes the successful ones work. Is you had the idea to theme it around the spells, right? You did every spell, right, from the 5e.
So okay, that came later. So I saw people doing modules, and I'm like, "What's this Kickstarter thing?" So I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna do a Kickstarter, and I'm gonna do a module," and that's where Bento's Charge came in. And most of that was my mom's money. I think it made $700, you know, and you know, I'm picking up commissions along the way, but I'm doing $25 quarter page panels. But the thing that made me different was because I'm digital, I can put more information in a 25 in a quarter page $25 panel than most people can.
Because of the speed and you can
well, I can zoom in, I can do all kinds of stuff to it.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, Bento's Charge didn't do good. I need a better idea. I'm like, what would 10-year-old Phil want? Let's go back to the Satanic Panic. And I was like, 10-year-old Phil would have wanted really cool spell books sitting at the table. So I'm like, I'm going to illustrate every spell from 5e from all 8 schools of magic. That's what I'm going to do.
Now, when you do that, did you have to get approval from, like, is there like intellectual property or stuff like that, or is that something that?
I'm sure there is, but it was punk rock Phil, and I was like, fuck it, I'm doing it.
But you know what though? I feel like that's when I feel like the eyes start watching and they see somebody coming up and they're like, let's see what this person's doing. You know what I mean? Like,
yep. And that's what happened. And
yeah,
I'm a huge proponent of mentorships. And I got a mentor with a guy I met at a Comic-Con with my son, Dave Akins.
Okay.
Yeah. SpongeBob and Dora and you know, all those little books. And he would always pick up the phone. He hated me. Hated my art. But he was always pick up the phone. And okay, you got to change this shit. You got to change this shit. There are too many lines over here. I was like, okay. So I was working for, I still am actually, Cobalt Press. And one morning, I was very prone to mental breakdowns. And I had a mental breakdown one night at the house. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to keep it together doing $25 drawings. I'm paying for Michigan State. I'm paying for all the bills. I'm doing 75 drawings a month.
Yeah.
To make the bills.
And you had worked so hard. You came from, you literally went through all that terrible, like living, basically below poverty to homelessness, to establishing a hugely successful independent business, and to have that like involuntarily taken from you. That sucks.
So I was like, I had a mental breakdown, and like to the point where this one was the whopper. This one was where Daddy was in the corner of the kitchen where I worked, where my computer was in the kitchen. And that's where I was doing my drawings. And I'm in the corner rocking back and forth going, I can't do this. The next morning, I get in, the first thing I do is I wake up at 6 a.m. and I check my emails. And I go and smoke, and then I go get a cup of coffee, and then I go to work by 6:30. And I work from 6:30 to 6:30. And the first thing I do is check my email. And there was an email from Wizards of the Coast. And it was a job offer through my website. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So I'm 6:15 in the morning. I'm screaming for my wife throughout the house. It's not a big house. And I'm like, you gotta come here. Is this fucking real? And she's looking at it. I'm looking at it. My kid's getting ready for school. He's looking at it. He goes, I don't know what the fuck this is. Is this how this goes? I'm like, I don't know. So I wrote back, who the fuck is this? Is this Dave?
No. You thought it was a joke.
I thought it was a prank from my mentor. And it was Tom Jankott, the art director for and he goes, no, this is Tom Jankott. I'm offering you this job, blah blah blah. We found you through Cobalt Press, blah blah blah. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't know it was for.
You didn't know who Tom Jankott was. You had not even were you?
I didn't know what the project was for. I didn't know. All I knew it was old school D&D, and here's 3 characters, and here's your specs. Go to town. Now I didn't know how to do it, and I stopped everything, and I got these first three commissions, and I did 5 full 11x17 pencil renderings of Gelatinous Cube, the skeletons, and the Displacer Beast. And so 15 fully rendered pencil drawings, 11x17, sent them off. And he goes, these are awesome. I want number 2, I want number 3, I want number 5. Okay, cool. Wow. No corrections.
Really?
So I was like, holy shit. So I ink them up. I mean, there's 50 hours of inking in the clattering skeletons alone. And that was my homage to Bernie Wrightson.
This is it's interesting. Your son asked, is this how this goes? And I can tell you that I've interviewed a lot of magic artists. This is not how it goes. Like, this is a very unique situation. especially the fact that you were not given any notes. That's
I never applied.
well, you didn't. Yeah, well, number one, you didn't apply. Number two, they found you, and number three, when you submitted your work, it was taken, it was accepted as submitted, which is I don't know if I don't know if I've talked to a artist that has had that happen to them, but
So out of 23 cards total, I have still 2 more to be released. I've had 2 corrections out of 23 cards.
that's still, I mean, the corrections are one, but I mean, like, that is, it is a truly you know, like, it's you, it's not how the story goes, but it couldn't be a better way for you to get it, because it's so deserved. I mean, like, when you stop and you look and you think about, and you talk about hindsight, when you think back about this through this whole story, you know, nobody could argue that you do not deserve to have this happen. I mean, it's an extraordinary, you know, it's testament to your talent, and yes, there's luck involved, but it is definitely deserved. So, you know,
Well, I deserved is, I don't like that word.
well, I understand, but I feel satisfaction in, just as an art appreciator, and somebody hearing your story. It brings me satisfaction to know this is that where the narrative led to, because it's like legit, you know,
Yeah.
like happy, like it's really cool. And I did not know that this was going to be, I had no idea that it was going to be this intense, but it really, I mean, I'll tell you what, it was one of the bigger YouTubers of Magic the Gathering, Joe Cherries, who's part of Nitpicking Nerds. He was like,
Yeah.
I asked him, I said, who's somebody I should interview, because, you know, who do you love? And he's like, Phil Stone would be really cool. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so I feel very happy that I get to have Joe. I'll be like, Joe, you're in for a whopper, because this is quite an interview. But oh my goodness, it's so you've still got 2 more to be released, and I mean, obviously NDA, we can't discuss
No.
that stuff. But is it? I mean, what is it? What was it like seeing the cards for the first time? Like, where were you when you first got to see your work in, like, the wild?
I didn't see them in the wild.
Not
Um,
never. You never, like,
I
cracked the pack, or
no, my son showed me online when they started doing the reveals,
that's awesome.
and I trying to think. I
It's
didn't know. So I'm sorry. I've never gotten this emotional.
it's hey, listen, it makes sense, because this is an emotional narrative that you've told me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is completely that I was expecting. You know, I was wondering, because, you know, I thought I would be emotional if I was.
So
So
let's go back to 10-year-old Phil.
yeah,
So Jeff D, Jeff Easley, Errol Otis, all those guys that were influencing me in 1982, I'm working with them now.
yeah, you're a contemporary. Is that's
So I'm when my son showed me everything online, when they started doing the reveals or whatever they do, you know, I'm seeing these guys and I was like, these are the guys that I saw in 1982 that made me, I had this weird inspiration and I didn't know what inspiration was. And here I am, I'm part of a project with them. And I'm like, well, shit. This is the craziest thing ever. So he showed it to me, and now these drawings have already been 6 months old. You know, so I've already done. I mean, I work at 75 drawings a month. So when I see them, I was like, wow, those are, you know, that turned out pretty cool. I didn't know the printing process. I didn't know how they were going to frame them. I didn't know anything. They just said, draw this. Okay, cool. And I'm happy to do it. And I can't believe I'm getting paid this amount of money for this shit. And, you know, he showed it to me, and then he showed me the other cards and the other artists. And I was like, holy fuck. I'm with these. Are you kidding me? I'm with these guys
Yeah.
from 1982 in the blue box that I was introduced at that family birthday party. And now I'm working with them. Are you kidding me? So humbled.
It's got to be. It has to be like almost surreal, right?
I absolutely. You can't. I still cannot wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I don't think you. I don't think you can, because it's like,
No, these guys. So they're like. So like whenever I do an interview or I'm in a con or something, like, well, how'd you do the ancient dragon, whatever?
mhm.
And I'm like, the legwork was already done for me back in the late 70s when, you know, easily and Errol Otis and all those guys, they were putting together the mechanics of what a dragon should be back then.
Right.
All that legwork's been done. All I got to do is put 15% of Phil Stone into it.
You know, but it's, yeah, I get the blueprint was
It
there.
was already there. Oh, you got gelatinous cube? How many times has that been done? But I went back to the people who inspired me when I did the gelatinous cube.
That's why they were universally acclaimed. It's because of that, because you were that is what was necessary. You had to have a fan who could do the art.
Yeah.
As well. Like it said that it wouldn't have worked, I don't think, if it was just somebody who was doing like a mimic or you know what I'm saying, like,
right. It was not a cheap imitation of all the legwork that was done back in the day. I mean, if it wasn't for Dungeons and Dragons, we wouldn't have Magic the Gathering.
It's true. It is true. I mean, it's an incredibly and this is why I do these, is because I really do feel like talking to the people who are involved with the games, making the games, especially the artists, I feel like it's taking down like history that, you know, who knows, maybe one day somebody could, you know, use the material for something if they're doing a film or research or whatever, but to me it's important.
Well, we wouldn't have Game of Thrones.
This is literally there. There wouldn't be. I mean, it's. I think the only thing that you could say that you know that really maybe, you know, shaped D&D would be what, you know, Tolkien. Like that was you know, that was there, but it really, after that there's really, I mean, it's pretty much all done, like Dungeons.
Well, there's Lloyd Alexander with
true.
Terran Wanderer and the Black Cauldron and all that. I mean, Disney capitalized on that stuff
Big time.
Those are the books I grew up with. So when I finally got the red box when I was a kid, I was like, oh, the blue box isn't it. We got to go back to the red box. And I got that. And on the back of the rule book is all these books that, you know, Gygax read to make this. And I was like, oh, I read 3/4 of that shit already. You know, it was the craziest thing. So yeah, when I do not take it lightly when I do these drawings.
Oh no.
And there is a history, there is a standard, there is a bar set that you cannot skimp on. And you have to keep in the back of your head every time you do these illustrations. I'm doing tokens right now.
Yeah.
For Magic. And really? I needed to go on a deep dive. What's already been done? how'd this person do it? You know, I'm working on a zombie right now. Zombies are zombies, but the best zombies were Bernie Wrightson's undead. And you got to go back to that. And my playlist, like I'll listen to podcasts all morning. I work 10 to 12 hours a day. I listen to podcasts till about 11, 12 o'clock. It just makes me feel like there's somebody else in the room with me.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of other artists. Like, because music can be just, it can be a little too intense.
There's one thing they don't prepare you for is the solitude.
Mm.
I don't feel well with solitude.
And especially going from what you were doing, which was basically socializing 15 hours a day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, hanging out with people all day.
Yeah.
So anyway, but afternoon, I put on, you know, a playlist my dad would have brought me in. My dad got me into Jethro Tull.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a huge Jethro Tull nut. And a beautiful band. Ian Anderson is fantastic. I've seen him play, I think, 5 times already. So I listen to what I would think my predecessors listened to while they were in the studio. So I put on a lot of like mid to late 70s rock, psychedelic stuff like that, and be like, okay, what would Wally Wood listen to? Who is one of my favorite artists from the EC days, and who defined sci-fi.
You ever think about like approaching anyone for an interview that, you know, like yourself, like in sort of, you know, just maybe, and not necessarily.
So the guy that I went to his house when I was in 10th grade, him and I still talk.
Which we can bleep it out, but I mean, because here's the thing, it's like did he remember you? Like, did he remember the incident?
So the first Comic-Con I took my son to, I wanted to introduce him into the culture when he was little, and I said, we're not going to Motor City in Detroit. I'm going to take you out of state, and we're going to go to a Comic-Con.
That's really cool.
And so we drove down to Columbus, Ohio to WizardCon. And I was looking at the first people I always look at is Artist Alley. And I was like, you ready to bleep it?
It gets bleeped in post.
Gary Quappitz.
So at this point in time now, where were you as far as the art career was? Where were you at?
So I was strictly a hairdresser at the time.
Okay.
And I had not started the store yet, because Dave Akins was actually at that con, which got me back into art, which got me into the game store after that first meeting with Dave Akins. And I was looking at Artist Alley and I saw Gary Quappitz. And my son knew the story. So I said, Blaine, I want to go to his booth. I have not seen him since 10th grade. So go to the booth, he's not there, but all the other Marvel guys are there. And I'm pacing around. And they're like, does Gary owe you money? Like, what the hell? And I'm like, no, it's a really funny story. You're going to love it when he shows up. Late to the booth. So finally shows up. I go, Quappitz. He goes, yeah. I go, I'm Phil Stone. I go, wait, I'm not the only one. And he just starts shaking his head. The Marvel guys are cracking up because they know it's coming. So the entire story in full detail about what happened that night at Gary's house
with your son there,
and my kid's in a cheap plastic one, right? And the Marvel guys are cracking up, and he looks at me. He goes, "Oh my God, please tell me you did something with your career." And I said, "There's 2 things, Gary. One, I drew the most horrible porn for a heroin addict in Carlsbad, California, 2, I'm a dresser.
But so, dude, was he in a dark place or something at that point in time? Because that seems like odd behavior. To
No, that was normal behavior back then.
It was.
Absolutely normal. Absolutely normal. I would get reamed out. I don't know how many times at I don't know how many booths at how many publishers at Comic Cons in Detroit. Like I said, my rejection letters were taller than.
But to like invite somebody to your house than to just destroy them, and then and then say oh,
I had a reckoning with Gary when I found him online. We were talking, we were laughing about Columbus or whatever, and then I wish it would have been followed up with take this class, take this
yeah,
class, take
yeah.
this class. Um, I was so late in the game in high school. I'm at this guy's house, and he doesn't know what to do with me.
Well,
And
but I mean,
but that's how brutal the industry used to be.
see,
I
but
mean,
why would you? But at the same time, it's like, why would you have I mean, and maybe it had maybe because things have changed and with maybe we're aware now of the kind of damage you can do to a young person if you're just
I just think that's how it was. I think that Gary was a part of that 70s culture of trying to break in through.
yeah, it's like but it's like sort of like there's a difference between being frank and being dick, and it's like there's I
I
think
might have caught him at a bad time. I mean, I don't know.
that's the thing. That's what I wonder. I wonder because maybe if somebody had had too much to drink or if they were like depressed,
Right.
something
We're all
like
depressive. I mean, so I guess at the end of the day, like I have a thing with aspiring artists, and especially when I was in school, I didn't say. I mean, I was working for 12 publishers, small presses, when I was in community college.
mhm.
I didn't say anything about that,
No.
but I was the old guy, and I was older than most of my professors. And some of them I divulged to, like what I was doing and stuff like that. I wasn't with Wizards at the time. Um, I would have kids come to me going, I don't know about this. I'm like, look, are you having fun? Yeah, I'm having fun. That's it. Have fun. Once you stop having fun with it or connecting with your younger self, you gotta stop.
If you saw somebody's art that was like, for example, if you saw someone's artwork who was just now, and I don't agree with calling anybody, calling someone's work trash because that just
No, you shouldn't.
it's unnecessary, it's mean, it's not helpful. There's
No.
ways you can communicate that somebody needs to work on something
Right.
without doing that. If you ran into that, how would you approach that? And if you like, what advice what approach would you give?
Like, what do you mean? If somebody said that to somebody?
Or if some no. If like if you ran into a young artist who just wasn't there, like and you maybe you didn't know if they would ever be there, but they asked you to review their portfolio. How would you navigate those waters? Like after what you went through, I mean, how'd you approach that? You think?
I mean, I guess the first thing I would ask was, "Are you having fun?"
So that's really that's it for you then. That's the key for.
I mean, are you enjoying this, or is this a struggle? If it's a struggle, you got to figure your way out of that struggle, and that's not up to me. That's your own personal hell you got to go through. And are you where you think you should be?
That was a good question. Yeah.
And if they're like, no, that's like, good. You shouldn't be, because you're never done with art until you're dead.
Do you have any young artists that you're mentoring right now?
No, I kind of stay away from that.
Is it because it's just you're working your workload is as intense as it is? Because I mean, it's it's such a unique story that you went through, and I've interviewed, I've heard a lot of different stories of how people got into the game and became who they are, but it's it's so interesting because the path of the artist is so unique.
Yeah.
It never is going to be the same for any one person, but I
No.
feel like the struggle that you go through is that would it would speak to people. I mean, who knows? Maybe you got another book in you that is, you know, sort of along the lines of what the interview was. I mean, it's certainly got.
The first book I wrote, My Life as a Straight Male Hairdresser and How I Got in Bed with Your Wife. Um, it's a provocative title. It's a very lewd title. Um, but it doesn't mean what you would think it would mean.
I feel maybe you were going for a sort of a Easton Ellis kind of vibe where there's a character. It's like a
No, what it was my wife, my current wife, was my client in a salon studio, and she was married. And I hear a lot of stories about horrible relationships.
yeah.
And I did a 4-hour chemical service on my wife to permanently straighten her hair. She is a first generation Sicilian woman
Oh wow.
whose parents came right off the boat.
How do you
Um,
permanently straighten someone's hair?
um, anything but until it grows out.
Oh, I got you. Okay, okay.
Yeah, that was the thing that actually kicked in the lupus.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
horrible chemicals.
That has to be something brutal because to make curly hair straight.
Oh, it's wretched. So anyway, her and I met in the chair, and she told me her story for 4 hours, and I had to do a show the next day. So I said, you have to process for 72 hours. You can't get it wet. You can't sweat. You can't do any of this shit. There's so many chemicals on your head right now. Here's my phone number. I'm going to be on the road. I'm going to be in upstate New York for a show. If anything happens, give me a call because you paid a lot of money for this. I think I was charging $1,400 for that service.
Whoa, that is intense.
Right. And I was in upstate New York, and she started texting me. And it wasn't about her hair.
Mm.
And throughout that 3 days of that show of us texting back and forth, we started a relationship. And I'm like, you're married, I'm single. And she goes, I'm going through a divorce. And I said, okay, here's the deal. You are not going to talk to me throughout this whole divorce. I don't want to be the cause of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going away. You're going to do your thing. And you've got 2 children. And I'm going to go away until divorce papers are final. Then I'll come back in and I'll be there for you. And yeah, her daughter had Bobby, which was my daughter as well, had a Cardi syndrome. She passed away at
Oh.
9 years old
Oh.
on my couch. That's when I quit Rusk.
That's oh God, that's terrible.
So
Well, I mean, you are really, I mean, like,
but she had a dad there.
You should. Well, that's the thing. Is like such a it's such a strong and kind person to like you're no you're doing for them what was not done. Like your mom, it seems like she tried with your thing, but there was, and I'm not trying to cast blame, but like I think your father you know could have could have tried harder,
A little bit.
a little bit. And and it's and who knows, and it's always the thing with parents. It's always difficult because it's a cycle of abuse, and you never you learn that what happened to them is 8 times worse than what happened to
Right.
you. And and it's been going on for generations and generations. So you learn to forgive, right? You learn to
Oh,
make peace,
absolutely.
because you have to, otherwise you're going to be a bitter person. But
Oh my God, my mom is my biggest cheerleader.
I really got the vibe from her. Like, it's even just reading about her tangentially. I mean, even when she said you're being a hairdresser, because in a funny way, it was not so far removed from art that you weren't doing something that wasn't activating that part of your brain that needs to be creative, right? It's like
You can only go so far with it.
yeah,
And I couldn't deal with the egos.
that's yeah.
And when I got out of it, when my daughter passed, I was very lucky to get out of it when I did. Because that's when all the reality shows started kicking in
Mm.
and the egos. And you ever see Bruno?
on
Ha
Christmas
ha! You did.
on Christmas morning with my family.
Okay. Do you remember the beginning of Bruno, where
Yes,
he was
yes.
at New York Fashion Week, and that lady was trying to get the hair together, and Bruno was all messing it up and stuff like that in the tents, right? Do you remember that part?
I do. Yes, yes.
I was in the other tent next to her, and I had to deal with her after she was done dealing with Bruno.
Oh God. And she went, and he's so good that you didn't know that he was
No,
like, people had
when
no
she was
idea.
done with that and had to deal with Bruno, we launched Nikki Hilton's clothing line.
Holy shit. That's okay. That is true chaos. Like, he comes in, he's just like that's, I mean, he's got, he does stuff where sometimes I'm like, how are you not afraid that somebody's gonna like kill you for
Well, not only that, but during Nikki Hilton's clothing line launch, I can't remember how many models there were. There's probably 30 models, and I think there was like 5 of us on the team. And that lady who was in the movie was the lead, and um, you only get 10 minutes a model, and none of them were happy because of what happened previously in the other tent next to us. Well, not only that, during it's Nikki Hilton, for Christ's sake, right? So you had all these creepoids like hanging out trying to be paparazzi,
oh yeah.
taking pictures of chicks who were changing and trying to get in pictures of the Hilton family, because I got to meet the mom and dad and everything.
Mm.
And there were so many cops and so many people thrown out of that whole show. It was absolute chaos. I don't know how she did it.
She seems like, I mean, I gotta tell you, she seems nice. Like, she seems like a nice, like,
Nikki was nice.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let Paris in because they thought Paris was going to steal the show at the time. This is the early 2000s.
Yeah, Paris is maybe a
Yeah,
different
she's a train wreck.
story.
Now the parents were fantastic. I'm sure that was a show. I got to meet them. They were very nice, very supportive, because Nikki was doing purses at the time.
Yeah.
And this was her first clothing line that she was launching, and it was like a huge thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
as opposed to like the Green Day thing, which was that was just freaking hilarious.
How was that? I mean, but at the same time, like, I mean, like, that's really, that's a lot of you were, sort of
There was no pressure on that one.
oh, come again?
None.
Well,
So the clothing line was called Obedient Sons.
uh-huh.
And that was Green Day backed that whole line. And I cannot remember the bass player's name,
Oh,
but he was there. Billy Joe was not.
I mean, if we could look it up and cut it if you wanted to, but
Joe, that wasn't Joe Strummer.
it was
Anyway, so here's what came out of that whole show. So my artistic director for Rusk came up to me and she goes, they want a beach look for the hair. Okay, how do we do that with our products from Rusk? We don't have it. Let's go down to Dwayne Reed's and we're going to go get some sea salt and some leave-in conditioner.
huh?
Okay. So we took half a bottle of leave-in conditioner, dumped half of it out, and then put the rest of it sea salt. Shook it up like a crazy person. So whenever you see sea salt spray, that's where it came from.
Really? That makes sense because how do you imitate the salt air from the beach?
Right. And we made bottles and bottles and bottles of that stuff. And later on, the following season is where everybody started coming out with beach spray. With sea salt and leave-in conditioner.
It's quite a trajectory. I mean, like, you know, interesting would be the least I could say because it's there's a lot of yes. I mean, do you ever like stop and you think like, wow, this has been like a ride. Like, I mean, just it's you. I mean, you could have claimed that it was a ride by the time you were like in your late teens, for goodness sake. I mean,
it got worse. I mean, I'm on my fourth wife. There's a lot of stuff in between that happened.
Right.
There's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of self, I guess,
harm
self-harm. On a whole bunch of different parties.
But do you talk to somebody? Do you have a doctor? 'Cause I mean, I know I have one. My psychiatrist.
So I did. I mean, I went. I don't know if you're supposed to say this or not. I mean, I've been in AA off and on. I don't like AA. I don't like AA. I don't like sitting at a table and having strangers call me an asshole. I know I'm an asshole.
I think that from what I've been told, because my sister, had struggles and she's clean now, but I think that from what I've heard and I talked to a few other people that the first year is like good, then after that it becomes kind of culty, and
I don't like it. I tried it twice. I really did. I tried it twice. I don't like it. I know I'm a dick. I know I've done some dicky things. I know I'm an addict.
Well,
I guess what I do now as far as therapy is I draw 10 to 12 hours a day and I try to beat out the last drawing. And I try to do that through learning. I'm not done. Whoever's got to do my eulogy though, for the 4 people who show up for my funeral.
Oh, shut up.
Is gonna have one hell of a job.
Oh, look, listen, you know damn well that's gonna be well attended. I mean, like, I think you've already covered those bases. I'd say, because I mean, and with your sense of humor, I'm like, what would he have planned at some sort of like?
Well, I already know the song. I Did It My Way by Sid Vicious.
I'm so messed up for mine. I wanted to, because nobody's going to come to mind, but if they did, I wanted it to be the final song from the Radiohead album Kid A that sounds like a funeral dirge.
Yep.
And then right in the middle of it, the record scratch sound, and then slams into Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper.
Fuck yeah.
That's what I want. But I'm like, is that appropriate for the people grieving?
Who
And
cares? You're dead. Nobody cares.
well, that's the thing is I'm dead. They're grieving. It's like I don't even. I mean, it's I feel like it's just a good fantasy. But I always thought I'd laugh at it. But then it's like, but I'm dead. Like they might not be in the mood for a joke. so so I mean, but that's just me. But
No, it's yeah, Sid Vicious, I did it my way. Um that's what I want. Because if you actually listen to the lyrics that he changed, it's probably the only good thing that Sid Vicious did for that band.
wow, really? Okay, well,
I hated Sid Vicious.
why do you think?
I think he was put up there as a stereotypical punk.
But you don't think that he had like some, like also some elements of like building the whole like look of him of the punk and the whole like idea?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It was like he set this tone of what punk should be. He used to play bass for Susie and the Banshees before he was with the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, I mean, he's controversial. I mean, he's a controversial figure, and like he definitely did some stuff that was like but he's an icon. I think whether
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it. Yes, he is an icon. I will totally give you that. But as far as how he presented it as this is what punk is, I mean, John Lydon was no better. I mean, John Lydon.
see, and I don't think Sid Vicious I don't think he could have been aware of the impact he was having as he had it.
I don't think so either. I agree with you on that one.
Because I feel like if he was aware of it, like the sort of contrarian nature of him would be to stop it immediately because he doesn't want to become something that is going to become a look.
Absolutely agree with you. I think what I'm mad about is that the media and the culture put him up on a pedestal.
Well, then there's and also the whole deification of drug addiction and also a cycle people
he was
in
a heroin addict.
And it's which is like that's not a sin, but what they do with when they try to make it something that is like romantic or
you cannot romanticize addiction. I'm sorry, addiction sucks.
It's not a romantic thing. It's
horrible.
It's a plague. It's a plague that we all have to deal with one way or another. Whether
I don't want to get into politics. The interview with Hunter Biden.
Oh yeah.
When he was snorting Parmesan cheese off the floor. Here's the deal. Everybody laughed at that. And every podcast I watched, they were laughing at him. And I was like, here's the deal. No, it's not funny. Because I had 3 hookers and 2 coke dealers at my apartment in Carlsbad, California. When I hit rock bottom, they had left. The money was gone, right? But my addiction was still there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need something up here to feel it in my throat.
Yeah.
And I got a McDonald's straw. We never had a vacuum cleaner. And I sat there with a McDonald's straw on that fucking shag carpet, snorting whatever the fuck I could find that was around that table that I swear to God, somebody dropped some coke there.
Yeah.
To the point where my nose blew up.
Yeah.
And blood, like there was blood everywhere.
Your body was just like, stop it.
And it was so dried out and blood vessels broke and there's blood everywhere. And I didn't know what to do. I was by myself and I'm just covered
in it. Yeah.
And so I called the Macomb County Sheriff's Department that night. I was in Carlsbad, California. Macomb County is in Michigan. That's where my dad worked. And I got the dispatch and I said, this is Greg Stone's son. And I said, you got to give him a 911 page because I'm fucked up.
See, yeah, that's the thing is, I think with again with like Hunter Biden, like I don't find any entertainment in it because it's like,
No.
listen, you can come from the most like you could come from the poorest of the poor to the
Yep.
most affluent. It doesn't matter. The outcome is the same.
Yep.
There are certain things that happen to human beings where we all react the same way. Every single human being has some form of addiction that they're dealing with, be it
Yes.
food, be it work, be it drugs. The dangerous thing about drugs is that it takes you out faster, you know, like
Oh, fuck yeah, it does.
it shortens your life. But there's also there, but the you know the tricky one about food is that there's also you don't go out to do drugs with your family. You don't drive by and see like board or billboards of drugs, and you're not watching TV and they have commercials where what I'm saying. So like it's something that's universal amongst human beings. So I don't know. I don't. Maybe I'm being like I don't. I agree with you. It's not a funny thing. It's just like this is somebody who's sick, and
there is the suffering addict.
like he's not doing this because he wants to do it.
No,
It's
no, nobody wants to fucking do it. No normal person in their right mind. Like I'll have 4 beers, right? And I'll be like, wow, I feel pretty good. I'm gonna go to the store and get one more.
yeah.
Why? Why?
Chase,
And then you do it. And then you drink that and you're like, all right, I got 6 beers in me. I got another hour. Let's go get one. No. Normal people are like, I had a beer and I'm good. No. The addict is like, one is too many is 1,000.
right. That's it. One is too many, 1,000's not enough.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's true. And again, but you know what? I mean, maybe like, and that's sort of the thing I think that people, maybe I kind of thought people were getting more open about it because people talk about self-care and all that stuff. But it's kind of shocking to think, well, I think maybe they're probably just doing it because to them, it's a political thing, which is ridiculous. It's like, he's some, like he's the son of a politician. That doesn't make him like, why would you politicize that? But that's, I think that's
a horrible thing that should not be. It's a horrible situation to be in.
Yeah.
And when people start showing the videos and all this other kind of crap and start politicizing it, I don't care what your political leanings are. That's a man with a problem.
Yeah, it's just it's very sick.
You address that in a different way. You don't address that in a public way. Once you address it in a public way, it becomes worse.
It's like when you I don't know. I mean, I know he's a grown man, but when you have a parent of somebody who's a public figure, and it's like they have kids, you have to give them a little bit of sympathy because they didn't choose to be in the spotlight.
Right.
And Lord knows there are. I mean, growing up without the internet, and I look at I am so glad that the shit that I was saying and doing is not discoverable.
Right.
Because I can't even remember but I know it's the incredibly ridiculously offensive, horrible, dumb things that I've said.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Dude, I dated a girl in 9th grade, and her brother was the town drug dealer.
That was intense. And not just that, but it's also a record breaker. The longest interview so far on Concepts and Legends. Do you know what I'm most proud of about this episode? Of how Phil rose from nothing and doggedly went after his dreams to make them come true? No, I was just thinking about how amazing I am that I cured myself of kleptomania just by reading a few self-help blogs. Most people can't quit things without the help of professionals. I suppose I'm just, well, I'm gonna say it, I'm a miracle. You didn't cure your kleptomania. Prove it. I can see my wallet in your pants. That's sexual harassment. Give me back my wallet or I will douse you with holy water. You wouldn't. Thank you, everyone, and be sure to check out our Patreon for loads of other fun stuff and help support the channel because This little badger turd is likely to rob us blind as soon as he regains his eyesight. Peace, love, spellslingers, and good night.
Bye-bye!